for thousands upon thousands of years, stretching back further than any written history you're allowed access to, there has been a hidden cabal, a dark elite, operating from far behind the scenes. They started out as a tribe who worshipped a dark, evil god. He demanded of them that they rise up and conquer the whole world in his vile name. And he taught them exactly how to do so, imparting knowledge and secret magics that would gain them power. The sacrifice of innocents and babes in dark magic blood rituals, for example. He promised his followers eternal life, untold power, and the sating of their every greedy desire should they succeed. It would take time, a great deal of time. However, he promised them, if they did his will, that they would never fail. He gave them signs and portents to watch for along the road. And so they set out to achieve total dominion over all the peoples of the earth. And here we are now, in the very crucible of the change of ages, the very moment foretold by that dark god to his cabal of supplicants. After an eon of conquest, this is the moment when it all comes to pass. And yet, plain as day, for all those with eyes to see, they are failing. And you, awakening soul, are the reason why. I am Adamu of the monadic entity of the Pleiadian civilization, and I am, as always, speaking to you through my trusted friend and scribe, Zingdad. And boy, do I have a story to tell you. There seems to be a story about the Dark Elite, their plans, their history, their organization. But really, it's about you, about the future you will create free of them and their malign influence. This is all really a magnificent invitation that I am here to issue to you. But all of that in due course. First, as promised, let me tell you all about the Dark Elite. The Dark Elite are often called the Illuminati. On and off, they have encouraged this term, perhaps gaining a little narcissistic feed from the suggestion that they are indeed illuminated ones. And for this reason, I'm not particularly fond of this term. On the whole, the members of the Dark Elite are not particularly illuminated souls. A very few exceptions notwithstanding, most of their number are irrevocably polarized to self-service. Unable to rise to unity consciousness, their tormented souls are blocked and stuck, and they cannot attain transcendence. Truly, the handlers and the minions that serve the Dark Elite are often some of the most unenlightened beings on earth. There are some, right at the top, that understand their role in the greater history of humanity. Some of them understand what they're doing. Some of them understand that from a higher perspective, even their actions are in alignment with divine purpose. In the Pleiades, there is a saying that goes something like, "In the end, even the devil does God's will." And so it is with the Dark Elite and the devilish god they worship. In the end, it is precisely their manipulations and machinations that drive humanity to awaken. Even as they endeavor to torture the collective consciousness into lower frequencies, into subservience, so the opposite happens. So humans begin to see, to notice the malign, anti-life manipulations. And so humanity begins to awaken to self-responsibility. But for all that, the first point I wish to make today about them is the Dark Elite are not illuminated. If one measures them by their actions, then the dark elite can be seen to be a collective of psychopathic megalomaniac cowards. And because they are cowards, they don't like to be known or seen. Which brings me to the second point about the dark elite. They are dark. They are hidden from your view. They don't want you to know their names. They don't want you to know where they are, who they are, how to find them. If you can point to someone, if you have a name, the chances are you are only pointing to one of their minions. Indeed, in order for their plans to work, the dark elite must remain utterly hidden from you. As long as they are hidden, you can never raise a mob with pitchforks and storm the castle gates, metaphorically speaking. You can never turn against them. Their heads will never roll from a guillotine. Indeed, every single time humanity stands up to oppression in this fashion, the dark elite have been able to replace the deposed despots with a new set of lackeys. Sometimes it takes a while. It took them about 200 years to regain control of the USA after those erstwhile colonies won their independence. And in this way, we see exactly why the dark elite always remain hidden. You can war against their tools of control. You can even win that war. But they themselves remain hidden and undefeated. And from behind the scenes, they can reclaim what they have lost, extend their power, gain yet deeper control. For this reason, they operate through a system of reigns of control, which we shall call the DESC, the Dark Elite System of Control. Let's deconstruct this Dark Elite System of Control, shall we? You might imagine a pyramidal structure right at the very top of the pyramid. At the very uppermost peak is a hidden cabal. The topmost layer are the dark elite themselves, ones who are always hidden, always invisible throughout history. They operate through a next layer that remain hidden themselves, the so-called hidden hands, beings who do their will loyally, quietly, behind the scenes. The hidden hands work in contact with the first layer that you do sometimes see, the ancient bloodline families. If you are a conspiracy theory aficionado, if you have done a great deal of due diligence, if you have really searched to find out who runs the world, you have probably come across some of the names of the ancient bloodline families. These are the topmost layer of the visible hands. They operate upon the complicit. The complicit are ordinary human beings who rise to the top of this power structure because they are willing, because they are capable, and because they are utterly without any shred of moral decency. They are complicit because their yearning for power, for money, for control, or perhaps for other darker things that they can obtain through this power structure drives them to do the will of the ancient bloodline family members that they serve. The complicit might very well be politicians, presidents, kings, cardinals, popes, the kinds of people who are seen to be people of power. Complicit because they know that they are engaged in a very evil, dark game of control, because they have, one might very well say, sold their soul for power. Beneath the complicit is another layer called the compliant. These are beings who are not aware of how very dark, how very evil the entire game is. But they are simply going along because that's the way it flows, because there is money and opportunity in that direction. These will very often be the people that will appear on television as authorities. This would typically be the super rich, politicians, church leaders, ones who are manipulated into behaving in ways that are not necessarily in the best interests of humanity, of those that they serve, but are in the interests of the dark elite. Beneath the compliant are the complacent, ordinary human beings who are wounded and traumatized in their souls into making choices that are absolutely not in their best interests, but they are doing what they're told. The complacent are very often traumatized and stuck in a state of consciousness called other responsibility, unable to find their truth, unwilling to connect with the divine within. They simply do what they are told. And so they go along with the agenda. Whatever it is, they stand with the latest thing that they are told to stand with. Because the experts on television, because the politicians, because the approved scientists that they are presented with as authorities tell them to do so. Finally, there are the resistant. Those that get angry, those that rise up, those that fight against the dark elite system of control. Sadly, this is also factored into their plans. If you turn against the dark elite system of control, they manage to use you as a part of their plan. Think about this. The complicit, the complacent, and the compliant now have an enemy. You. You have an enemy. Them. And the two of you war against each other while leaving the dark elite themselves completely out of it. As long as you are busy fighting against their tools, you are part of their plans and not fighting against them, not waking up to who is really operating behind the scenes. And so this is the tool, the dark elite system of control. It operates through a number of pillars of control. These are, one might say, kind of black magics that work on the minds, the hearts, the souls of humanity. We have introduced you now to the dark elite system of control. In forthcoming presentations, we will tell you about the pillars of control, what they are, and how they work. Until then, my dear friends, remember, you are winning. Have courage. Have faith in yourself, in your connection to the divine. You are awakening. You are winning. I am Adamu, of the monadic entity of the Pleiadian civilization, and I love you all with the heart of oneness.